You are about to witness the very exciting story of a city and its people. It will be an adventure that will open new sights in familiar surroundings. It is a story of a city seeking new horizons in a resolute contest with great challenges. That city is Detroit.
Detroit, la ciudad del motor, vive en la actualidad uno de los episodios más tristes de su historia. Desde hace ya unos años, la situación económica y social se ha vuelto insostenible. La suma de factores ha provocado que la otrora símbolo del desarrollo capitalista se haya convertido en una ciudad en bancarrota.
Bankruptcy started maybe 50, 60 years ago with the outward migration of workers, creation of the suburbs, and the diminishment of the revenue that would have come to the city.
City of Detroit was the birthplace of the automobile, the birthplace of the highway, the birthplace of the shopping mall. We've created what has really hurt a lot of actual cities in the United States, is allowing people to move away from a core and created sprawl. We've lost 1.5 million people in the last 50 years. Without people, no tax base. Without the taxes, you can't pay for the lights, you can't pay for the police, but we kept spending that money.
Durante los años 50, Detroit era una ciudad en pleno crecimiento. Empresas automovilísticas como Ford o Chrysler convirtieron al estado de Michigan, y a Detroit en particular, en el centro mundial del automóvil. La incipiente industria del motor propició un impulso para la ciudad y el crecimiento de la clase media y el sueño americano. Durante años, Detroit continuó en esa prosperidad económica, pero lo que en su interior se escondía era una falta de prestaciones sociales y graves problemas raciales. El 23 de julio de 1967, la ciudad estalló a raíz de una redada policial en un local de un barrio predominantemente negro. Este hecho fue la gota que colmó el vaso de la población negra que se encontraba inmersa en graves desigualdades sociales debido a su color de piel. Después de 5 días de disturbios y 43 muertos, la ciudad nunca volvió a ser la misma.
The city of Detroit in the 1960s, following the civil disturbance, many white individuals left the city, fearing that they were going to be injured, but no such thing was about to be forthcoming.
We saw a great shift in the demographic after the riots in the 60s. A lot of white flight occurred. A lot of white people moved to the suburbs of Detroit.
They took with them their dollars, their businesses, and underdeveloped entire neighborhoods. There were some situations where people were living in a neighborhood during the day, and they would leave at night, and they would sell the houses for fire sale amounts.
Otra de las causas de la crisis de la ciudad es que su industria principal empezó a tambalearse.
Cada vez que hay una economía que depende de un solo producto o mayormente de un solo producto, cuando esa economía cae, el resto de la economía sufre. Muchos de los trabajos industriales que existían en la ciudad fueron paulatinamente transferidos a otras partes del mundo. Y entonces, pues la economía automotriz, que es la que guía, es el motor que guía la economía de Michigan, padeció o sufrió de esos cambios.
En los años 70, empezó la deslocalización de las empresas automovilísticas en busca de una producción más barata. Ford, General Motors y Chrysler empezaron a llevar sus fábricas a otras zonas de los Estados Unidos y fuera del país. Además, en 1973, debido a la crisis del petróleo, las empresas de automoción tuvieron que hacer fuertes inversiones en sus fábricas para hacer más eficientes a sus vehículos, ya que el precio del crudo se había disparado.
Al caerse la economía automotriz, afectó de una manera muy palpable a casi todos los sectores económicos de la ciudad, desde las escuelas hasta las empresas aliadas a la industria automotriz. Y yo creo que eso más que nada ha afectado mucho a Detroit. La industria automotriz siempre estaba bien relacionada a los impuestos. La gran mayoría de la cantidad de dinero que se recoge de las arcas municipales vienen de los impuestos a la industria automotriz. De modo tal que cuando cae la industria automotriz, los impuestos bajan. Siempre afecta a la gente más pobre. Y aquí en Detroit a los trabajadores. Esto ha sido una ciudad de trabajadores. Es como un barrio obrero, pero es un barrio obrero más grande. Y en el pasado, cuando la industria estaba buena, pues ese barrio obrero y las industrias que lo sustentaban era suficiente como para promover el ascenso a la clase media trabajadora. La gente compraba sus casas, tenían sus carros, enviaban a los chicos a la universidad. Esos días ya han pasado.
Imaginemos las ciudades de San Francisco, Boston y Manhattan todas juntas. Así de vasta es el área metropolitana de Detroit. Una ciudad construida por y para la industria del motor, con grandes avenidas y una red de transporte público casi inexistente. Esta falta de conexiones entre barrios de Detroit agrava aún más las diferencias sociales en la ciudad.
50 years ago, people did not plan, many of the mayor and city council persons and finance people, for the downturn and the change in the one industry market, which was automobiles. They didn't deal with that. They didn't change in terms of rapid transportation and modifying that.
Y el problema es mucho más grande para la gente pobre. El que no tiene carro no se puede mover. Si no tienes coche, aquí te quedaste.
A causa de la crisis de la ciudad, Detroit tiene una deuda de 18.500 millones de dólares. El 14 de marzo de 2013, Kevin Orr fue nombrado, pese a los votos en contra de la comunidad, Emergency Manager de Detroit. Esta figura surgió debido a la emergencia financiera de la ciudad y lo hizo desde el control absoluto de todos los estamentos. Ese mismo año, Orr promovió la declaración de bancarrota de la ciudad, que provocó la renegociación de toda la deuda y la bajada de las pensiones a los ciudadanos.
El gobernador del estado de Michigan designa a un tipo que viene de afuera, que no es parte de la comunidad y que tiene el poder total para decidir sobre los temas sociales y económicos que afectan a la ciudad.
They're not calling it a dictatorship, but that's essentially what it is. He's initiated several executive orders which have changed the democratic landscape of the city.
Esta ciudad representa uno de los ejemplos más claros y más fuertes de cómo el capitalismo salvaje ha venido destruyendo los derechos y el bienestar de las personas. Y entonces lo que alguna vez fue la gran ciudad de Motor City, hoy día parece realmente una ciudad después de la guerra.
They appointed emergency managers to take over the schools, and the teachers and the community were left out, closing down school buildings. When you close a school building, you close a neighborhood. So that's what began to happen now. That's why you have such large acreage with nobody there and in a very dangerous and precarious situation. The standard of living in the American middle-class capitalist system has essentially began to become challenged by virtue of the fact that you don't have those resources that are undergirding and creating those jobs anymore like you had here on the assembly line. There are no big assembly lines like that anymore. All of those supplier jobs are gone, and so we have to do other things to survive.
Detroit también ha sufrido la crisis inmobiliaria. Miles de personas se han visto afectadas por una crisis mundial que se ha olvidado de la clase media para su beneficio personal, dejando a mucha gente al borde del abismo.
No pedí hipotecas para comprar esta, la compré cash. Con el tiempo, mi esposa tuvo problemas allá en México con un negocio que tenía ella, pero tuve que hipotecar la casa para mandarle el dinero a ella. Pero como siempre los he ayudado mucho con dinero, yo me quedaba sin dinero, ¿me entiendes? Al final, pues ya no pude seguir pagándolas. Y así no tengo ni un 5 ahorita. Sí.
There's been a flight of capital, and as a result, there's been massive unemployment now for many, many years, aggravated all the more when the economy went into recession, the Great Recession of 2008, 2009. The unemployment rate in this city officially peaked at around 30%. Actual unemployment was probably more like 40, 45%. And that meant many people could no longer, if they had to choose between food and paying their mortgage, they made the hard choice and went into default on their mortgage. And the banks that destroyed the economy with their fraud and their profiteering then began to expel them from their homes.
American cities rely mostly on property taxes for their funding. And Detroit's and property taxes are set according to property values. And so when the mortgage bust occurred, property values plummeted to absurd lows, which destroyed the property tax base of Detroit. I think a lot of people view it as very unfair and absurd that the viability of our government and our city services and people's jobs and pensions who have worked for the city government is so reliant on this very chaotic, unpredictable, and speculative financial system, as seen in the mortgage industry. So in that way, I do think that Detroit's problem is a problem of capitalism.
Detroit Eviction Defense es una organización sin ánimo de lucro que se dedica a ayudar a gente que va a ser desahuciada. Se estudia su caso y se decide cómo actuar para que esas personas no pierdan su hogar.
El lunes me iban a sacar de aquí, porque ya me había llegado la orden que me iban a sacar. Voy yo ahí con los abogados estos y les explico el problema y les enseño unos papeles ahí y todo eso. Y al día siguiente estos señores paran el desalojo de la casa. Y el lunes ya no vinieron a sacarme, porque me iban a venir a sacar del banco.
Goyo Martínez es una de las muchas personas que ha sido ayudada de manera desinteresada por Detroit Eviction Defense. Él llegó aquí hace 30 años con la ilusión de conseguir el sueño americano.
We insist that there are the resources to help those people stay in their homes, but the resources are not available unless Detroit Eviction Defense and groups like us mobilize on behalf of keeping them in their home. And we want to make it clear that there's a community supporting them. We picket the bank, we picket federal officials, and we also will mobilize in front of the home and try to organize the neighborhood through canvassing and rallies and marches through the neighborhood to rally them to the side of the homeowner in the way we're doing here.
Ese es el caso de la familia Hernández. Otro ejemplo por el que Detroit Eviction Defense está en lucha. El padre perdió su trabajo y no pudieron pagar la hipoteca. Además de eso, fueron estafados por un supuesto agente inmobiliario. La organización tuvo que estar 65 días en vigilia delante de su casa para evitar su desahucio.
And we argued that this was unjust, that if the federal government can provide billions and billions of dollars to bail out the banks, they should be actually helping homeowners stay in their homes so that neighborhoods like this can survive. And we are slowly, we think, building a community capacity to resist these kinds of events and make it clear to the authorities that they're better off negotiating and arriving at a settlement where we keep these families in their home, perhaps with a reduction in the mortgage amount monthly so that they can afford it, perhaps with the sale of the home to a nonprofit in the community that will then in turn keep this family in the home.
You know, the American dream was defined for us, and the American dream is based upon participation in capitalism. The most patriotic thing you can do is achieve the American dream, which is owning something.
And so the American dream under capitalism was always fallacious. And so now, when the jobs and the economy went under, then people had to pay those huge mortgages and credit cards and so on, and the dream just became a nightmare.
My brother, after pulling his house out of foreclosure for the second time, committed suicide and leaving behind 3 kids. I don't think as much as this is about the house and keeping people in their homes, it's about keeping people well and keeping families together. The level of destruction this has on people's everyday lives and their well-being. We're talking about the working class of America who really are struggling in every way to survive in a city that really doesn't offer many opportunities to survive in a plentiful way.
From a Christian point of view, capitalism in itself, if it's only the main focus of society, can be very dangerous. It can become very exclusive and become a focal point that a few have all and the majority has nothing. We have to make sure that social justice has been being served, so that the share of the big industry and the wealth of the city and those who have it all share with those who have nothing.
It hurt me to see the city goes down, but because of the job rate leaving, people putting their trust in money, and as it leaves, then we know that people have to change their way of living. So we have to blame the system for what really happened.
Congregation here in this neighborhood that was abandoned. The church moved out, and so we moved in. And what happens is there's a new birth in this neighborhood.
We thank God for opening up the church. You know what I'm saying? Because the church brings peace in the community. You know, but before the church was there, you know, it was like, you know, chaos. But now that the church is there, they have services on Sunday. The community loves the church.
And it doesn't matter if you're Catholic, if you're Protestant or non-believer or Islam, whatever your faith might be. What we care for is that we love each other and care for each other. What we're seeing is rebuilding the city is happening in small communities coming back. It is the small communities that look out for each other, that try to revitalize a community that is not driven by the main industry anymore, but it's driven by, let's open a restaurant here. Let's make sure the schools are functioning. Let's make sure people have access to public transportation. So there is something happening that is old, has always been there, and something new that is people coming together and build small communities that eventually will drive the city back. The spirit of a local community makes the change. When people on the ground, a township, a village comes together and tries with their local governing body to create an environment of social justice, things will change, you know.
Detroit no es solo la bancarrota. La ciudad está siendo reconstruida por sus habitantes, dando importancia a su carácter social y sobre todo a las personas.
People are beginning to say, enough's enough. We need to take care of this. We cannot let this great American city just fall to the wayside. We have to put our boots to the ground, start digging holes and building a community. Whether we have to grow our own food, whether we have to create a system where we rely on each other to watch our children or to take care of each other. I think what we're beginning to see in Detroit is a lot of people are starting to live together and cohabitate. You'll see a home where 4 or 5 people are living together to make it happen, which is totally different than what we saw 50 years ago occurring in Detroit. People were separating from each other. We're starting to come together.
La unión de las comunidades está cambiando la ciudad. Nuevas iniciativas como la creación de huertos urbanos o el fomento del reciclaje dan a la comunidad nuevas formas para construir una sociedad más justa. Organizaciones como Recycle Here han supuesto un cambio radical para la ciudad de Detroit, fomentando el medio ambiente para crear una sociedad más verde.
In 2005, the city of Detroit was the largest city in the United States without a recycling program. And some students at Wayne State University and my neighbors asked me about starting a recycling program. So we put one small recycling dumpster next to a bar in the neighborhood and a sign on the light pole that said Recycle Here on Saturday. And the community started showing up and recycling on Saturdays. And the city of Detroit took notice and asked us to create a program for the city of Detroit, and since 2007, Recycle Here is the city of Detroit's recycling program. People bring us material, and what we found is what they really like is having somewhere to go where they can be around their neighbors, talk to their friends, and be a part of something that's bigger. You bring us the material, we ask that you separate it, and we can take a wide variety of things. We take things that most curbside recycling don't accept. And it goes to all different places. When we sell things, the money goes to an education nonprofit that we created. So everything that you bring us, if we can actually turn it into money, that goes to an education program that goes into the Detroit Public Schools and teaches kids what green means. Not only does it help our program grow, but it also it allows people to actually feel good about recycling. It's good for the environment, but you can actually see real world examples of you recycling, because we're going into the schools and we're teaching the next generation of Detroiters how to have a green city. A city is defined, obviously, on a map by a border and buildings, but really what makes a city alive is like the energy created by people living here. And that energy only grows when people collide with each other and are able to interact. And that's what we provide. Anything that's going to make the city of Detroit a better place is going to involve citizens, not just buildings.
Feed on Freedom es otra de esas organizaciones que está revitalizando la ciudad. Su proyecto se basa en la construcción de huertos urbanos en barrios de Detroit.
Our goal is to transform the way Detroiters think about the food system. And mainly in Detroit, transform the way Detroiters think about their food through growing food, through art and education and nutrition. It started with a desire to connect with our neighbors, our desire to utilize the space that was available. So the land was a resource, and it also started because of my husband's years of activism and both of our interest in the food that was available to us and what it was doing to our bodies.
Myrtle también está preocupada por fomentar el consumo responsable y de proximidad de los alimentos, y sobre todo, del uso que se hace de toda la tierra en la que habita Detroit.
What is the work that I'm really doing? So it's a garden, it's a farm, but it's a lot more, because once we start touching into Detroit being a motor city, which created the good, the bad, and the ugly, it's forcing us to really look at ourselves and how do we recreate. For me, better is simple. Better is really understanding that connection as to who we are and what our role is on this earth. And our role is caregivers. We should take care of each other, as well as being connected to our food, to understand that we can't live without what this provides. And so for me, that would be better.
I see the city of Detroit being completely self-reliant, unlike any other city before itself. Detroit was the city that gave everyone the automobile and allowed shipping from one side of the country to the other. That's how we led the way. Now we're going to lead the way by bringing it all back home.
A lot of people want the city of Detroit to come back. Like, we want the good old days. The city of Detroit's not going to come back and have the good old days. We're creating a new future. Bankruptcy will help us with some of our debts, but what we create now, the finances of the city of Detroit and what we're creating on the ground now are two different things. The banks and people are going to fight over that, and that's going to be in the courts. But growing a city back involves bringing people together, and that's something that governments don't do, people do.
I think that building community is the future. We have to rebuild communities, we have to rebuild relationships, we have to create new ways and new work for people to do so that they can take care of themselves. You can't depend on the corporations anymore. They're moving around. You have young people working 2, 3, 4 jobs just to survive, even if they have a college degree. People in the community have to build their neighborhoods and be independent and self-sufficient. I think there's a battle between that and the corporate Detroit that's moving ahead. There's a battle between the downtown and the community. There's a battle between the people who have the money and the people who have the skills and the resources. There's a challenge between the people who are spiritually and humanly motivated and those who are just basically motivated only on money and only on capital. What do I think Detroit's going to be like in 10 years? I think Detroit is going to be whatever we make it in 10 years.
El fracaso capitalista de Detroit puede extenderse a otras partes de los Estados Unidos. Solo la creación de sociedades más justas puede ayudar a formar mejores ciudades.